Hey folks, Fall RC here. Quick Traxxas Revo video for you today. Mine has wobbly wheels and I'm going to try and solve it and hopefully it'll help some other folks. What do I mean by wobbly wheels? Basically this. Look at that play there. Now it's not on the steering link because if I show you a back wheel, let's take this one here. Look at that. And the wheel nuts are done up tight. So I've been running this for a couple of years. I've been looking after the bearings but I haven't done anything else to them, and I'm not quite sure why that is. I have a suspicion it might be the bearings plus these hex hubs. If you don't know if you can see on the camera here, but the black central spine of the drive shaft, you can see it sort of flopping around that. So I think the hex hubs have worn, but I don't think that accounts for all of the play. So I'm going to tear this down, see what we find, and see how to fix it. Right, so here's the front wheel off, and here's the hex hub that I think is part of the wobbling problem. You can see here that that's slopping around a bit on the shaft. So I think we need to get some new ones of these. Right, so you can see the shaft it was on. And basically I think that the inside of this is worn, so it's not snug on that shaft. Right, working around all the axles, and I'm on to the last one now. I've been replacing the hex hubs just because they are slightly worn, but I don't think they're a real big factor in the wheel wobble. They're probably about 10% of it, to be fair. I did want to mention that if you're not using Traxxas wheels, obviously the Traxxas hubs have these extra bits of plastic that engage with the cutout on this special 17mm adapter. If you're not using Traxxas wheels, you can use a conventional hex adapter from other manufacturers. They've got smooth faces on the hexes. This particular one, which fits absolutely fine, is an Offner part. I do like Offner. Their alloy always seems quite good quality and that the parts are well made. These are hub adapters for T-Maxes, part number 81175. So if you're not using Traxxas wheels, you can have a bit more choice of what hex adapters you want to fit. Anywho, so these aren't fully responsible for the wheel wobble. I think wheel bearings are probably 20 to 30% of the problem. I need to go and buy some more bearings for this. But the worst cause of the wobble I've found is actually the pivot points on the suspension. If you're a Summit or a Revo owner, you'll know that behind this, what should be blue but it's a bit dirty, this blue rubber part here, there is, if I can get this out, that's just going to be tricky. There we go. There's a black plastic cap here that the other side of it is like a ball shape that goes over a pivot ball, and you've got pivot balls top and bottom, and basically there's play in those. Now when I rebuilt this about 6 months ago there wasn't any play, but it's developed some play, so what I'm doing is just putting about a quarter of a turn on each of these. Not enough to bind the ball joint up, it's still smooth, but enough to take the play out, and that's making a huge difference to the overall wobbly wheel problem. So I'm just going to pop this adapter back on and I'll show you the results. Right, so having changed the hexes and trimmed out the play on the suspension pivot balls, you can now see there's a little bit of movement. This is the one that's really bad. That's still got quite a lot of movement, but not as bad as it was. All of that movement now is the bearing. And on the front, we've got hardly anything, and a fair bit of wobble there still. So I think we're probably about halfway there at the moment. So hex hubs hadn't actually worn that much. The original hex hubs are still reasonable. Suspension pivot ball adjustment was way out though. So I'm going to go off and find some bearings and we'll come back. Wobbly wheels be gone. I think we're on the road to success here. I've just sourced some bearings for the Revo. I decided not to get the standard Traxxas ones. I've gone for a pack of these. Again, rubber shielded bearings. This is from, can't see because this is in the way, Acer Racing. I found them on eBay. I got them from the States. Don't know if that's the part number or not, but I'll try and put a link in the description. I think they are basically just a little bit higher quality bearings than maybe you get the standard Traxxas ones. I think they're still ABEC 3, but they just seem a little bit tougher. Now the old bearings from some of the other quarters of the truck, apart from being horribly gritty, just because they're dirty inside, I don't know if you can really pick this up on camera. If I hold the inner race and I wobble this, you can see that movement there. I'm holding the inner race, and you can actually see how much the bearing can wobble. They're absolutely shot. They're just worn out. The outer bearings, the ones that go on the outside, they got a little bit of play, but it's the ones that are inside on the hub carriers here. They're just absolutely floppy. So I think a big part of the problem was the bearings. Obviously more was the misadjusted suspension cups. Anywho, let's take this one off. I'm just going to pop the bearings out, slide in the new bearings, and it's job done. Nice and simple. Obviously you don't have to use those bearings I showed you. You could use fast eddy bearings or standard Traxxas ones, or whichever ones you like to use. They're all pretty good. I mean, the Traxxas ones are really cheap, so fast eddy is good value for money as well. I used to be really precious about my bearings and clean them loads and loads, and hardly ever threw bearings away. Maybe ran them a little bit too long actually, and they were a little bit too much play. But these bearings in the Revo have been maintained, but I think it's just taken a lot of bashes, and slowly but surely the cages inside the ball races have got bent. Right, there's the hub carrier off. The bearings actually stayed on the shaft, the inboard one. I'll just give that a nice wipe inside. It's full of oily blackness at the moment. Now the other bearing we should be able to push out with a pair of pliers. I know some people will say make yourself a little bearing pusher, but long nose pliers with a graduating thickness I find work quite well, as long as you're careful about it. If you have to put a lot of force on, then maybe you do want to make yourself a bearing puller, which you can do with various size nuts and bolts. So that bearing is going to go, and we're going to replace that with one of the Acer bearings. And then here is the inner race. Now if I hold the race on that and try to wobble it, absolutely no play. That's me not gripping it properly. So that's solved there. Right, so I just need to get this bearing off of the shaft. If I wobble that, you can see how much play there is on that bearing. Now normally I wouldn't recommend stabbing a screwdriver down the side of the bearing, because you're going to maybe slightly bend the cage of the bearing, but as this bearing is worn out and I'm throwing it away, I'm just going to be rather non-technical and get my screwdriver in there and flex it out. There we go. Right, the final gnarly, listen to that, that's horrible, and very wobbly. Right, so here's the hub carrier with the new Acer bearings installed, ready to go on. So it may just be a case of sliding this on, or I may run into the problem I've had on some of the other axles. Let's see. Yeah, you see here it's pushing out this bearing. What I've found on some of the others, where the pin goes into the drive shaft, it's got a very slight burr on it. I mean, you can hardly feel it, but it's just here. There's a very slight. I really can't feel it, but it's obviously a slightly higher diameter there. So what I need to do, just get a very fine file, and we're just going to smooth off this area here where the pin has just dragged the metal very slightly. So the tolerances on the bearings are quite precise, so it's just not going to slide on this shaft. I had to do this on a couple of the other axles as well, as the bearing wasn't sliding on nicely. There we go, so the axle's through properly, so we can now reassemble. Okay, the Revo's back together now, so let's just have a recap. We've got brand new hex hubs holding the wheels on, we've got new wheel bearings on all four corners, and we've adjusted the pivot balls so that they're not waggling around anymore. And as you can see, I might line this up with the camera, try and wobble that. The play is absolutely minimal now, and it's the same for all four wheels. So wobbly wheels are solved. So if you've got a Traxxas Summit or a Revo with wobbly wheels, hopefully this video will help you out. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions or comments, please post them below.